Hey, this is DocHoliday, and I wanted to walk through my past week in LOTRO. So, as many of you have known, the past couple weeks I have been working on my world-renowned Dean, and this week I did finish, so I will show you some of the outputs of that. But walking through, I started to realize that actually farming some of the reputation drops was the easier and quicker way to go. So I ended up coming down here to the Numinous docks and essentially pulling one entire dock at a time. And each one of these pulls would get me between 7 and 8 individual barter tokens that I could use for reputation. So I ended up getting me pretty significant reputation pretty quickly. So I ended up just kind of doing this, and actually I'll probably continue doing this because actually selling these on the auction house gives you some pretty significant money. Now, essentially what ended up happening as I was doing this is I realized that doing leeches with this many mobs is the way to go. So I pretty much just ended up spamming resolution, as it ended up being the best way for me to not only damage as many mobs as possible, but also make sure I stayed alive. And, going through, really this was primarily just to farm for reputation items, but also ended up making decent money off of this, just purely, the drops and things like that worked out to be a pretty good enterprise to go through and do that, not to mention all of the turbine points that you get from not only getting the reputation, but also I would complete various different deeds along the way that would give me reputation and turbine points. So it worked out to be a pretty profitable venture to go through and do World Renowned. So after doing stuff in Evandin and Numinous, Angmar was my next focus. So this is just one of the areas. This is actually Bale, Cathan rank, and it's just one of the areas where there's just a lot of Angmarians. It's a good place to not only farm for the Angmarian deed, but also a good place to farm for items. And I also like just to go and fight Cargles because it's just amusing. So what I ended up doing here was just focusing on that Cargle and bringing him down. One of the problems I had with the Numinous is things were dying too quickly, so it was harder for me to get off my gambits because I had to keep on tabbing to the different targets and finding out which one was in melee range. So being able to focus on the Cargle made it a little bit easier because I could just go ahead and focus on him and use my AoE leeches on everything else and not have to worry about anything, targeting or anything like that. So this made it a little bit easier, but same kind of thing, we're just going here farming for the reputation items. Good way of making money, good way of making other kinds of trait grinding and things like that, so it worked out to be pretty good all along. The big annoyance with these guys is they do a lot of fears, so there's a lot of silences, which for Warden, with all my shout-based attacks, all the leeches are all shout-based, it ended up causing me some issues, but nothing too major. And a couple of times I had to go through and cycle through my shield hots as opposed to doing the leeches, just because I was silenced. But this kind of gives you a good feel for how I was going through and doing things, and what some of the different areas where you can farm reputation and get some decent rewards out of that. So ended up finishing up the kindred with those two reputations, and the last two pieces I had to do were to get Enedwaith wrapped up. So I actually was able to finish both factions within Enedwaith the same day, which is kind of cool. So this is inside the Men of Algreg reputation area. This is Brennan's Hall, so I was able to go ahead and finish off and get kindred with the Men of Algreg, and it was not too bad. Once they went ahead and changed all the rewards, dailies you're getting about 5,800 reputation a day, so I ended up being able to go through pretty quickly to get the reputation for that. And then this is out in Etchid Degoris, where I was finishing up the reputation of the Grey Company. I was actually a little bit worried here that I wouldn't have enough, but I had calculated it right and was able to finish off that quest. That turn-in gave me enough reputation to get Kindred, and that was the last one I needed to get my World Renowned Dean. So once you do that, not only do you get, this actually is worth the total Kindred and World Renowned got me 70 Turbine points, which, hey, it's not bad. I think, I had to go back and look, but I ended up getting a significant amount of turbine points for doing these reputation grinds, which will allow me to do things like purchase virtues and other kinds of things that I am a big fan of. And then, of course, the other big thing that you get with this is you get the new fancy mount that you can ride around. I have some screenshots that I'll post of that as well. But that's basically what I've been up to so far this past week in LOTRO. and I look forward to next week getting some more group content.